So, welcome to Muntons. Today I'm joined by Kate, who's Head of Sustainability, Marketing and Innovation. Now, sustainability is, well, if I can say it properly, sustainability could be dry to some people, but I can guarantee you Kate won't make this topic dry, will you?
I promise.
Yeah. Tell us the steps that Muntons are taking in relation to this, because you guys have been doing this way before it was a talking point.
Yeah, actually, that's a really important point, is that Muntons, sustainability has become obviously a massively to the fore in the current years, because obviously the climate is now high up on the agenda everywhere.
Yeah.
But actually Muntons have done this long before that. There was a real thing in Muntons about doing business the right way.
Yeah.
And we just felt like it was our duty as a corporate company to do that. So actually we set our first science-based targets back in 2010, using our 2007 data as our baseline. Now, science-based targets is really the accountability system that almost all big corporations now sign up for. Any really credible company that's doing sustainability will sign up to science-based targets.
Yeah.
By doing that, there's a way of measuring and actually driving your data, so you know what you're actually about. You know how much carbon you're emitting, you know what your energy and emissions stand for, and therefore you can actually create a plan to step change it.
Yeah.
So really the first thing we did was to actually drive knowledge. We had to get an understanding of what it is our business actually did in terms of carbon. What was our carbon footprint? Where did it stem from? What were the actions? We then created an action plan. We signed up to accountability to make sure that we were publicly disclosing this, so that we were really being driven to that account. And then we've driven forward on that path ever since.
Yeah. So look, values are critically important to us as a family business. So we're a husband and wife team. We've a really diverse portfolio of people that work with us, and something we're really proud of. But values started to become something that we wanted to drive forward, because there's an authenticity in your brand then where people buy into what you're doing. So what are the measures that have been taken here? I know there's biomass that's been installed. I know there's an anaerobic digester. So
so the big thing is, when we actually analysed our carbon data, 60% of it actually comes from the farming, the making of the barley. 37% of it comes from on-site, so the energy that we produce and the heat that we have to use. As you can imagine, making malt takes a lot of heat. So that requires a lot of energy in order to do that. And then 3% of it is downstream, so it's things like you're driving it to the right destination in your trucks.
Yeah.
So the two big areas to tackle was obviously on-site, and the other big area to tackle was obviously our farming practices and how we work with those. So on site, we looked at it's called Scope 1 and 2, if you don't know the terminology. It's so Scope 1 is what you produce on site, Scope 2 is what you bring in indirectly from the grid.
Yeah.
So we started to tackle that, and I'm proud to say that at the moment we have decarbonised that by 60%, and actually there's more to come, because our energy centre's just coming on stream. We've done that through two biomasses, we've done it through anaerobic digesters.
Yeah.
So there's a series of different and combined heat and power plants.
Yeah.
So there's a series of infrastructures that we've invested in that have really allowed us to make that substantial difference to the physical carbon emissions that we are producing as a maltings. And the energy centre is our most recent one, which has only just come into commission and is actually still just coming on track at the moment.
Okay.
And that again, so we're waiting to see, but there should be another impact coming, and we'll hopefully drive it even further down. Yeah. Which is really big steps on our path towards getting to net zero.
Yeah. If you're, like we have a large community of people who watch our channel, so we have everyone from homebrew right up to commercial brewers and distillers and cider producers. If this is something that new breweries are having, or old breweries are having to address, what would your tips be for them in their consideration around tackling a sustainability policy?
Absolutely. Number one, learn your numbers. Understand, do your carbon mapping. If you don't know what you've got, you don't know how to tackle it, and you might spend your energy tackling something that's actually really quite insignificant in the grand scheme of it. Yeah. Everything counts, but you still want to tackle and put your energy where the big differences can come from. So learn your numbers. There's lots of help out there these days. Lots of local authorities have got schemes where they'll help you do your carbon mapping, so there's often a lot of support there. As soon as you've got your numbers, start to look at what your action plan is.
Yeah.
And there's some real, again, tangible, like we are over 100 years old. Our infrastructure is old,
Yeah.
you know? We have beautiful old heritage buildings, we have gorgeous kilns.
Yeah.
None of this is easy infrastructure to influence, and yet we've been able to do it. So there's also a piece about dedicating yourself to actually making tangible change.
Okay.
Drive that into action, make it practical.
Yeah.
Don't make it greenwash. Don't
Yeah.
just do stuff that sounds good, looks
Yeah.
good. Do real,
Yeah.
proper, tangible change. Get it in place, look for the support. There's lots of government grants out there, again, that can help you within certain steps. Hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
It's a bit like if you promise to run a marathon.
Yeah.
If you don't sign up to a marathon, you ain't gonna bloody do the training.
Yeah.
So if you sign yourself up to those measures, so there's the Carbon Disclosure Programme, EcoVadis, who we sign up to, which puts us in the top 1% of the most sustainable companies in the world.
Yeah.
There's a really high standard. We sign up to the Science Based Targets Initiative,
Yeah.
SEDEX, there's a series of different programs out there, but sign up forces you to be accountable, forces you to disclose your data.
Yeah.
And from there, you can just keep tackling it. The other thing I would say is it's really hard to do it on your own.
Yeah.
You will need collaboration and partnership. We've been very fortunate that we've worked with some of our big brewers, for example, on our regenerative agriculture scheme,
Yeah.
which is where we've been really making a difference out there in the farm. We've been working with our farmers. We've worked with the nitrogen fertilizer companies, to try and drive down the emissions that are involved in making your fertilizer. So you won't be able to do it as a one-man band.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can look out for those partnerships and those collaborations. And then the other one is bring people on the journey.
Yeah.
So the other thing we've done is we've worked a lot. For example, we do sustainability school for all of our employees.
Yeah.
So everybody understands the terminology, they understand what we're talking about, what we're driving towards, and how to make change in their own way, in their own area.
Yeah.
So everybody gets involved. And likewise, we've just rolled one out for all of our suppliers.
Okay.
So we're helping our Scope 3,
Yeah.
which is the part that you are indirectly responsible for, as in it's what's done before it reaches you as an ingredient.
Yeah.
We're working with all of our suppliers on packaging, you name it,
Yeah.
to help them understand their sustainability program
Yeah.
and how they too can influence the change. So it's really possible.
Yeah. So live it. Don't
Live
just
it.
talk about
Yes,
it. Live it.
please.
Yeah. If somebody wants some information on this, is there a section in your website we can point them to?
There is. It's undergoing a refresh because, of course, I'm marketing and I can't
Yeah.
leave anything alone.
Yeah. So there's so much we could cover here, Kate. And
Constantly.
yeah,
I could talk all day.
regenerative farming is where it starts because that's where the barley's grown
Yeah.
before it comes in here. What have the farmers you're working with been doing to reduce their impact?
So there's a number of steps. So there's one of the biggest pieces that actually impacts the farming itself is actually the use of nitrogen in your fertilizer.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of work happening in collaboration with the fertilizer companies to produce a low carbon version of fertilizer.
Yeah.
And it's about how do you also have to minimize the usage of that in the first place.
Yeah.
So there's both what you use and how you use it in terms of trying to reduce the impact.
Yeah.
The second is use of pesticides.
Yeah.
And really being mindful of those and how you do them.
Yeah.
The third is actually not turning your soil over. If
Okay.
you can imagine, all this is about trying to sequester carbon. So the problem we've got is that we are all using carbon and it is all being released up into the air, and that's hitting into our greenhouse gases, and it's basically creating this warming planet.
Okay.
So as much as you can, you want that carbon staying here on Earth, in the soil,
Yeah.
putting the health back into the planet. So by not turning over your soil, you instantly don't release as much opportunity of the carbon to release up into the air.
Yeah.
So that helps keep it in the soil. Lastly, you should try and do crop rotation,
Yeah.
because inherently it puts more health back into the soil. And the real game changer one that's been happening more recently in our trials that we've been doing over the last few years has been cover crop.
Yeah.
So instead of just growing your barley and then leaving your field fallow,
Yeah.
what you actually do is you specifically find a crop that is known for putting health back into the soil. So like radish is a really good one that's included in our cover crop. And what they do is they plant it over the winter, let it grow, and then you actually roll it so it goes back into the ground as green matter
Yeah.
and physically sequesters carbon back out of the earth, back out of the sky, into the ground. And if you actually measure your soil before and after,
Yeah.
there is such a tangible change. You can physically measure the carbon content.
Yeah.
We've had one farmer this year, for example, so typically growing barley, soil, it takes about 300 to 400 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions per tonne of barley grown.
Yeah.
He's managed to get it down to 15. That is a 96% reduction in the amount of carbon emitted, as it's carbon dioxide emitted, as a result of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And in a really good year, so this was a bad year for the time of year that we could sow the cover crop.
Yeah.
In a good year, we think we can get it negative. So we
Okay.
can actually be turning back the clock.
Yeah.
We can be putting carbon back into our soil and reversing the damage that climate crisis has been having.
That's it.
It's amazing.
It's a non-negotiable thing, really, from my point of view. Climate change is on the news every day of the week now. As in, you know, the climate is changed to an extent where it's, you know, it's, well, we don't know if it's irreversible, but it's certainly looking that way. So we all
Everyone
have
has
to
a
start.
responsibility.
All have to start taking responsibility. The malt sacks are recyclable, which I like. you
Yes.
know, so
They are.
yeah, so they
We'd
can
like
be.
them to be even more easy to be recycled, so
Yeah.
they are all recyclable.
Yeah.
We'd just like it to be more accessible to help it, but we have got a scheme where we've signed up to a malt baler, a sack baler.
Yeah.
So you can have one of those in your brewery.
Yeah.
Often helps actually the breweries reduce the cost.
Yeah.
Because they've got a lot of money involved in taking away rubbish.
Yeah.
And they then make sure they go to the right destination to be turned and pelletized and moved on into the supply chain.
And Muntons are the most sustainable maltster in the world. Is that fair to say?
100%.
100%. Yeah. So,
Proudly so.
So, Kate, thanks so much for your time today. If you guys want any tips on sustainability, we recommend you get your own sustainability program, but check out the Muntons website, and I'm sure it'll be very helpful. So, until next time, happy brewing.